This vessel cost the American taxpayer $3 billion. It is faster than any torpedo fired at it. It can dive deeper than any other attack submarine in the U.S. Navy. It is a marvel of nuclear engineering designed to hunt Soviet typhoons under the Arctic ice. But inside this billion-dollar machine, the reality is shockingly primitive. 140 men are currently sharing two washing machines. They are sleeping in bunks the size of coffins, often taking turns in the same bed because there isn't enough space. And right now, they are eating eggs made from yellow powder because the fresh food ran out 3 weeks ago. Why would anyone volunteer for this? And how does a crew physically survive 90 days sealed in a steel tube with no sunlight, no internet, and limited oxygen? In this documentary, we are going to bypass the classified weapons systems and focus on the human machinery. You will see how the crew manages to load 15 tons of food through a hatch the width of a man's shoulders. We will analyze the strict hierarchy of the chow line and why eating a steak dinner is often a sign of impending danger. We will break down the logistics of hygiene, waste disposal, and the psychological toll of total isolation. This is not a movie. This is the operational reality of the USS Seawolf. Welcome to the silent service. To understand life aboard the Seawolf, you must first understand the problem of storage. The SSN-21 Seawolf was built for speed and stealth, not cargo capacity. Before a deployment, the boat must take on provisions for a standard 90-day patrol. The grocery list is staggering: 15,000 pounds of flour, 2,000 pounds of chicken, 1,000 pounds of coffee. In total, roughly 15 tons of dry, frozen, and chilled goods. On a surface ship, cranes lower pallets onto the deck. On a submarine, there are no cargo doors. Every single item must be passed by hand through a 25-inch hatch. This process is known as the store's load. It is an all-hands evolution. A human chain is formed, stretching from the pier down the vertical ladder through the control room and down into the galley. For 6 to 8 hours, the crew functions as a conveyor belt. But the freezers are not large enough. This leads to a unique storage solution known as the deck load. The crew takes number 10 cans, industrial-sized metal tins of vegetables, coffee, and flour, and lays them out on the floor of the lower passageways. They cover these cans with sheets of plywood and rubber matting. For the first 4 weeks of the mission, the crew is literally walking on their food. The clearance in the hallways is reduced by 6 inches. As the deployment continues and the food is consumed, the floor level physically drops. You can track the length of the mission by how much headroom you have in the hallway. The galley on the Seawolf is the operational center of the ship's morale. It is a space measuring roughly 10 by 15 feet. In this confined area, 3 culinary specialists must prepare 4 meals a day for 140 men. That is over 500 meals every 24 hours, cooked on equipment that must be bolted to the floor. The cooking conditions are unlike any kitchen on Earth. First, there is the atmosphere. The internal pressure of a submarine varies, and the oxygen content is kept slightly lower than sea level to minimize fire risk. This affects human physiology. The sense of taste is significantly dulled at depth. Food that tastes normal on the surface tastes bland underwater. To compensate, the culinary team relies on heavy seasoning. Salt, fat, and spices are increased by nearly 30%. This is why submarine food is notoriously heavy. It is designed to punch through the sensory deprivation. Safety is paramount. Deep fryers are equipped with heavy steel lids and locking mechanisms. If the captain orders an emergency deep maneuver, the angle of the ship can exceed 25 degrees in seconds. Hot oil is a catastrophic hazard. The cooks learn to cook in a braced position, wedging themselves between counters to stay upright while the ship maneuvers. The food supply follows a predictable degradation curve known to the crew as the fresh cliff. The first phase lasts about 10 days. This is the only time fresh produce is available. Salads, tomatoes, bananas, and fluid milk are served. Morale is high. The food resembles a standard cafeteria. Phase 2 is the middle grind. By day 14, the fresh produce is gone. The ship switches to frozen vegetables and canned fruits. The milk supply shifts to UHT or ultra-high temperature milk. This is shelf-stable milk that does not require refrigeration until opened. It has a shelf life of 6 to 9 months. The texture is thicker than fresh milk, and the taste is sweeter due to the caramelization of sugars during pasteurization. Most sailors mask the taste with chocolate syrup or use it only for cereal. Phase 3 is the bottom of the freezer. By week 8, the menu is entirely processed. Eggs are no longer cracked from shells. They come from cartons of liquid egg product. When those run out, the cooks switch to dehydrated egg powder. To make powdered eggs palatable, cooks often mix in cheese, hot sauce, or bacon grease. Bread is baked fresh daily because it takes up too much space to store. The smell of baking bread at 3 in the morning is often the only way sailors can distinguish night from day. There is a specific meal that carries a psychological weight: surf and turf, steak and lobster. In the civilian world, this is a luxury. On a submarine, it is a signal. Because of budget constraints, lobster is rarely served without a reason. If the crew sees lobster tails on the serving line, it usually indicates one of two things. Either the deployment has been extended unexpectedly, or the submarine is about to enter a high-risk area where stress levels will peak. It is a morale tool used by the command to preemptively soften bad news. A submarine operates on a 24-hour schedule, but the workday is relentless. To fuel the night watch standards, the galley serves a meal from 11 p.m. to midnight called midrats or midnight rations. This is not a light snack. It is a full-calorie meal designed for men who will be sitting in the dark for 6 hours monitoring sonar. Common midrats items include deep-fried corn dogs, ravolas, which is a mixture of leftover ravioli and lasagna, pizza made from scratch, or breakfast foods like pancakes and bacon. Midrat serves a dual purpose. It provides calories, but more importantly, it serves as the social anchor for the crew. In the absence of sunlight and internet, the mess deck at midnight becomes the primary location for social interaction, rumors, and decompression. Fresh water is a strategic resource. The Seawolf is equipped with reverse osmosis units and distillation plants powered by the nuclear reactor. It can theoretically produce thousands of gallons of water a day. However, the propulsion plant and oxygen generators have priority. The crew gets the surplus. This leads to strict rationing. Showers are limited to 3 minutes. The Navy shower protocol is mandatory. Water on for 10 seconds to wet down, water off. Lather and scrub, water on for 40 seconds to rinse. Violating this protocol is a shipmate offense. If a sailor takes a long Hollywood shower, they are depleting the hot water tank for the next man. Social pressure enforces this rule more effectively than official regulations. Laundry is equally restricted. With only 2 industrial washers and dryers for the entire enlisted crew, laundry is done by division. You may only have access to a washing machine once every 7 to 10 days. This necessitates the poopy suit. This is the standard issue blue coverall. Sailors wear this single garment for 15 hours a day, sometimes for a week straight. It is made of a polyester cotton blend. By the end of the week, the fabric absorbs the smell of oil, sweat, and amine. Viewers often ask, what does a submarine smell like? The answer is a specific chemical compound called monoethanolamine or amine. Submarines use amine scrubbers to chemically bind carbon dioxide and remove it from the air. The chemical has a distinct pervasive odor. It is often described as a mix of dirty socks and burnt plastic. This smell is not just in the air, it attaches to fabric. A sailor's clothes will smell of amine even after being washed. When a sailor returns home and opens their duffel bag, the scent fills the room. It is the olfactory signature of the submarine service. The Seawolf is larger than previous classes, but the living quarters are still microscopic. The enlisted berthing is a compartment filled with racks stacked 3 high. Each rack is an aluminum pan measuring roughly 74 inches long and 24 inches wide. There is barely enough room to roll over. Privacy is provided by a single blue curtain. Inside this curtain, a sailor has a reading light and a small locker beneath the mattress for personal items. This 12 cubic foot space is the only private territory a sailor owns. On full deployments, the number of sailors often exceeds the number of racks. This necessitates hot racking. 3 sailors are assigned to 2 racks. They rotate based on their watch schedule. When Sailor A gets up to go on watch, Sailor B climbs into the same bunk to sleep. The sheets are changed, but the mattress remains warm from the previous occupant. This practice creates a constant cycle of sleeping and waking within the berthing compartment. It is never quiet. There is always the sound of people moving, zippers opening, and the rhythmic thrum of the propulsion shaft. The most significant difference between a submarine and any other military deployment is the information blackout. Surface ships have satellite internet and email access. Submarines do not. To maintain stealth, the Seawolf cannot transmit while submerged. It can only receive very low-frequency broadcasts. Communication with home is limited to family grams. These are text-only messages limited to 40 words screened by the command. Bad news is often withheld. If a tragedy occurs at home, a death in the family or a serious illness, the captain may decide to withhold that information until the mission is complete to prevent the sailor from becoming a psychological liability. This creates a state of suspended reality. A sailor can go underwater in January and surface in April, having missed major world events, Super Bowls, or political changes. They return to a world that has moved on without them. What happens to the waste of 140 men over 90 days? It cannot simply be stored. Submarines use a device called the TDU or Trash Disposal Unit. It operates like a vertical torpedo tube in the floor of the galley. Metal cans are crushed into pucks using a hydraulic press. Food waste is pulped into a slurry. Paper and plastic are weighed down in mesh bags. When the submarine is in deep water, the TDU is loaded. A ball valve opens, and the weights eject the trash to the ocean floor. This is a dangerous procedure. If the valves are operated in the wrong order, sea pressure can force water back into the boat with explosive force. Even taking out the trash is a lethal risk. When the mission concludes, the Seawolf surfaces. The emergency blow procedure is often used as a drill before returning to port. High-pressure air forces water out of the ballast tanks, and the 9,000-ton vessel shoots to the surface, breaching like a whale. When the hatch opens, the crew experiences sensory overload. The smell of fresh air laden with salt, iodine, and diesel is intense. Sunlight is painful to eyes that have adjusted to artificial red and fluorescent lighting. But the psychological decompression takes longer. Sailors report a strange sensation of too much space when they return to their homes. Sleeping in a queen-sized bed feels wrong. The silence of a house feels unnatural compared to the constant mechanical hum of the boat. The USS Seawolf represents the pinnacle of naval engineering. It is an apex predator designed to dominate the ocean. But the machine is nothing without the crew. These sailors endure 18-hour workdays, breathe